Hello and welcome to Mississippi Insight. I'm Byron Brown. Thank you for joining us. This week, Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann talks about his push for education funding in Mississippi. His to-do list includes more money in building repairs at public schools, teacher pay hikes, and more access for pre-K education. Also, medical marijuana legislation. Why hasn't the governor called a special session to consider it? We'll hear from a lead negotiator on the bill and the LG's thoughts in this edition of Mississippi Insight. When the lieutenant governor speaks, Mississippians listen. As far as policy and politics are concerned, Delbert Hosemann is one of the three most powerful people in our state, along with Governor Tate Reeves and House Speaker Philip Gunn. Last week, the Republican from Warren County sat down with 12 News' Thao Ta for an extensive interview on education reforms and other priorities.
Lieutenant Governor Hosemann, thanks so much for joining us today. Welcome back
to be here.
To Mississippi Insight. So we know you want to talk about some educational priorities in the Magnolia State. First off, how would you rate the status of our K through 12 schools, especially amid disruptions from the COVID-19 crisis?
Well, we got our reports back from our testing and whatnot, and I was exceptionally disappointed in where we are, just to be honest about it. We had significant decreases in our capabilities both in math and reading in Mississippi. Distance learning, you have to give it to the teachers and the superintendents. They just made that out of whole cloth, and where we didn't have anything at all in February, all of a sudden we had distance learning. The legislature backed that up by giving an iPad and a Chromebook to every child in Mississippi that's in public education, 400,000 of them. So we did what we could do, but there is no doubt and no substitute for having your child in front of a teacher. That's where we get learning. And if you look at those numbers, we decreased last year under COVID. In meetings with the Department of Education, they've got some strike teams going back in to emphasize some of the things that we were weak in and try to bring our students back up to date. The best thing we can have, of course, is to have them in front of a teacher, 8 or 9 months out of the year. And we're very interested in the programs that do 9 weeks on and 3 weeks off, which are basically kind of a year-round school. That's something everyone should consider. Corinth and other cities are doing that now. And that gives us a chance to make up for this gap that we had. We didn't have a total gap year. There were 1 or 2 schools that did a little better, I think Ocean Springs and some of those. But by and large, all of our kids struggled with that. Both, I think, socially, I think we've got mental issues. There's a lot of problems that came out of that. And I was, it's not anything that our school boards, that our teachers did. It was just the COVID experience left us behind further than where we had. For a number of years, we had been progressing on our graduation rates and our other things, and this year we took a dip, and we just need to recognize that happened and hope that it never happens again.
Now, Lieutenant Governor, your office has said also that it's time to boost the public school building fund. So talk about why that's just so important.
Well, we've met with the Department of Education, and we're trying to balance. They got $1.6 billion, the Department of Education did, and they're kind of the referee for that. School districts will apply, they approve it, and the federal government makes these payments. So we're trying to go back and make sure that we coordinate with them. For example, they can use this money to fix the air conditioners and whatnot so that COVID wouldn't spread airborne. But that doesn't do you much good if you got a leaky roof. So there are other things I think we need to supplement that money with and coordinate the expenditures of those dollars to make sure our physical plants are in perfect good condition. The parts that are not covered by the Act, that we substitute those with state funds. So I'm very interested in that and making sure that all of our kids have a place to go and learn that is safe, secure, and has the proper air quality and all the other things. So really we have 2 pots of money, the one that were given to the state and the ones that were given to the Department of Education. The Department of Education's budget is $1.6 billion came from that, and we'll coordinate with them on that expenditure to give a first-class school buildings and curriculum to those people.
And with that being said, Lieutenant Governor, why has the legislator, some would say, been so slow to adequately fill the fund over the last several years?
Well, we started by giving teachers pay raise last year. Now, I thought in my first year, I thought we would get that through with not any problem, but there's just a slow recognition of the most important person in Mississippi long term is not some elected official, it's that teacher sitting in front of that child for 18 years, 16, 12 years, maybe a year before that, maybe 4 years of college. However long that period lasts, they're giving them the ability to be competitive, have an positive economic life. All of those are critical things. So you saw us do a teacher pay raise last year, first time in a long time. You will see us addressing it again. We've already had hearings to come back and supplement that pay raise with looking at where these dollars need to go. Like not only just the first year teacher, but a lot of teachers really go out in the third, fourth, fifth year and go back. Some of those are family things or childbearing or whatever, but we want to make sure that they stay not only for their first, second, third year, but their fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth year where they really got great experience. So you'll see us, I think, continuing to work on that. We have programs that give now the Winter Read program that gives you a relief on your loans, your debt service if you went to school. That we'll pay those off if you work in an urban area that's critical access necessary. So you'll see us doing that, and where we're promoting our new teachers to go into areas, and we'll actually pay their loans off for them. There's a number of positive things going forward. What is your priority there with
teacher pay, Lieutenant Governor? What is your priority there with teacher pay?
Well, it's time to raise the teachers' compensation. You will see us as a priority method. We would like to get to the southeastern average. I can't get there necessarily in 1 year, but I can get there over a period of years. You'll see us actually start to bump into the average teacher salary based on what we'll be doing with a series of things from loan forgiveness through just direct compensation. So no, we need to get to the southern average.
Now, Lieutenant Governor, the Senate Education Committee met last month, and they took a comprehensive look at teacher pay and benefits, and I believe Leo was there. But did you monitor that? Were you able to see that hearing? And if so, what did you take from that hearing?
Yeah, we're real proud of the fact, and we encourage y'all. There's a hearing going on today on the coast on floodwaters that they're giving, that the Corps that's given out of the Mississippi River and killing all the oysters. Every one of those is transcribed. I watch them all, and you can watch them later if you're working during the daytime. You can go back now and they're archived, so you can look at all of our education hearings. And I did. I was very interested in the process of that. Senator Barr has really taken the lead for this. He's just been a phenomenal asset to Mississippi. And through his process, they're looking at the structure of compensation for teachers. Where do we need that money? This loan repayment program like we got passed last year. What are our schools need? We have these superintendent meetings, groups of superintendents that get together around the state on what they need. So all of that is funneling back through our Senate Education Committee, back on the floor of the Senate and back to appropriation. So you'll see that happening. Watch those hearings, everybody, because that's where we're going.
The legislature has approved, as you mentioned, some small increases in teacher pay in recent sessions, but we still lag behind the rest of the nation by most measures. Now, Governor Tate Reeves has touted some educational gains. Don't we risk falling back, you say, if we can't keep our best teachers in the state?
Yes, and I don't want to be redundant, but the most important people long range are that the teachers are sitting in front of that student, and they influence thousands of lives. They influence 400,000 lives every year. So that's the most important thing. I appreciate the governor asking for a pay raise. We did that last year. We're going to do it this year. So I assume we'll be pleased with that. But I didn't need the governor to ask me to upgrade compensation. We started it last year, and we're going to continue to do that. And as part of that, there's a whole lot of things that go into that. The building goes into it. The fact that they've got Chromebooks. We gave $175 million and another $75 million to increase broadband. Over 100,000 homes are now have broadband where our kids can go and work at night instead of trying to get back to the school. They've got internet access. There's a lot to this education component. So when you say, well, you've given them this amount of money, what about others? Well, I can look at the Chromebooks we gave them, I can look at broadband, I can look at a lot of efforts that we're making to have a whole approach to education. Teacher salaries are low, and they need to be raised. They were raised last year, and the Senate is going to raise them again this year. I don't speak for the House or the governor, he gets to pick. But you should assume we're going to continue to march up the ladder where we realize how important that person is to the future of Mississippi.
Okay, now you've also spoken about the importance of pre-K education. We get good grades from our pre-K programs, but they only serve about 16% of pre-K children across the state, or some 6,000 children. And that's after the legislator doubled pre-K funding to about $16 million last session. Now, but that's still not good enough to cover the need, is it?
It is not. And so we're going to double it every year until we get there. The pre-K, every study that I see, pre-K gives that child the opportunity to get through the 3rd grade reading gate. That gives them opportunity to go to school all the way through. So pre-K is a critical component. You're right, we doubled it last year, and I will tell you right now, we plan it from the Senate side, we plan to double it again. Every child needs to have pre-K. Now, there are ones offered by Head Start, by churches. There's not necessarily they don't have any pre-K from any kind of institution, but we want public education to be an alternative pre-K. If the parent wants to send them there, we want to provide an opportunity for them to do so. So you're dead right about that. We doubled pre-K last year. I'd like to double it again.
Is there anything you'd like to add about, other educational priorities?
Well, I think we were meeting today with, again, with people about training and your institutional training for a job. We have jobs like for diesel mechanics that can start at $60,000 or $70,000 a year and make $100,000 a year working in that kind of place, a sphere. We have a lot of jobs that go lacking for individuals being trained in Mississippi. We shrunk the SWIB board last year, and we started a process where we hired a workforce czar. His name's Ryan Miller. He's doing a good job. We are going to concentrate on jobs that pay $25 or more to start with our educational opportunities. So we're picking up from our pre-K, which we're doubling, through school, where we're giving them Chromebooks, giving them a lot of money, raising our teachers' salaries, fixing our school buildings, to where you start to get an education, not necessarily for a 4-year education, but you get an education to go out and get a job that pays a good salary. That's part of the whole education component. Then our university system also has been well supported, and I think they're very pleased with where they are. All of this is to start with a young man or woman, to allow them to have the education they feel appropriate to have a positive economic life. And wherever you exit that silo is where we want to be. So I want to pick you up at pre-K, and I want you to exit whenever you want to. When you've got your technical training from our community college system, you got your college degree, you got your high school degree, you go direct to work, however that works out. So you can't just say, we're going to pay teachers more and that's going to solve the issue. There's too much else involved in that. And we're looking at a lot of other things, a lot of other parts on it.
Welcome back. Last week was a busy one for Thao. We get back to her interview with Delbert Hosemann in a moment, but she also talked with other key officials as work on a medical marijuana bill hits a snag. She reports that lawmakers spearheading the effort say they're fielding new demands from Governor Reeves.
Governor Tate Reeves still hasn't said when he'll call a session, but said this week getting it done right is more important than getting it done quick. This comes on the heels after the state Supreme Court overturned the voter-approved initiative in May, when questions rose over Mississippi's outdated initiative process.
Almost a mandate for us to get something done.
The difference is over a 0.7 grams of dosage of marijuana. Ultimately, Reeves wants the proposed 3.5 grams to be reduced to 2.8 grams for certain healthcare practices.
Every day, it seemed like for the last 90 days, there's like one more thing we've added or one thing we've taken out. And so we're ready to say, okay, no more.
Representative Lee Yancey is helping spearhead those efforts.
So we feel that urgency.
Reeves reportedly said he's simply following direction from State Health Officer Dr. Thomas Dobbs. A statement from the Mississippi State Department of Health reads, "We will follow the law as approved by the legislature and governor." Let's look at some other issues. Now, you and House Speaker Philip Gunn have asked the governor to call a special session for medical marijuana. Now, he has said in his conferences that he will call one, but what is pretty much the holdup as of today?
Not me, so I don't get to call him. I'm the lieutenant governor, he gets to be governor, so No, we finished our medical marijuana a couple of weeks ago. We sent copies to the governor. He's got them. I'm sure he's going over them. I'm sure he'll probably have some comments or whatever, but he gets to call whether or not we have a medical marijuana bill. My own personal feeling is that we should go forward with that, and there are a couple other things. I'm worried about nurses. We've lost 2,000 nurses. They're just exhausted in our ICU beds. I hope you never have to see what they go through every day for 12-hour shifts and then get to sleep a little bit and go back to. They're holding the hands of our dying fellow citizens where nobody else can go in there. It is traumatic. It's just, I mean, they've just been angels here to do the work that they're doing. And we want to keep those people here for the next pandemic or the next time this next bubble comes, variant of some sort. So we believe we ought to have the nurses there. There's been a great fall off in the amount of money that we use to take care of our children that are in child trafficking and other things. That's real important. We've asked that for the governor. We've had certain of our individual first responders die from COVID. We'd like to have a death benefit. So there's 2 or 3 other things the governor will get to pick on. Quite frankly, we're in October now. I think we should proceed particularly with those because it's such a necessity right now. But if there's no action taken in the next 60 days or so, we'll be in session to start addressing all of these issues. The medical marijuana, when we drafted it, Senator Blackwell did a great job, and the House did too, and the leadership, and Speaker Gunn and I met on a number of times. But in the end of that, we have a medical marijuana bill. We don't have recreational marijuana, and that's what I think people want. And so it's very specific how you grow it. You don't grow it in the fields out here, how it's licensed, who's responsible, how it gets taken, how do you get a card? You don't get one if you just want one to go smoke dope or whatever. None of that stuff is in here. It's very strict medical marijuana. And there are people who need this that are in life-ending sessions, so we're very interested in going forward for that reason because of the necessity of use of medical marijuana. If not, we can address it in January.
Now, is fixing the state's broken ballot initiative a priority in the Senate?
It will be. We've asked Senator Johnson, who's our constitutional head of the Senate, and Senator Polk, who's in charge of part of our session, one of our other chairmen, to come up with a bill to address the public constitutional initiative process. That's not a life and death thing because it doesn't even occur and wouldn't occur even until like next November, it'll be a year away. So I anticipate we'll address those probably early in the session in February.
Okay, Lieutenant Governor, now we know there's a huge amount of federal money coming into Mississippi from COVID-19 stimulus.
Right.
So there's more millions that we might expect from the transportation and infrastructure bill. But if it ever gets through the U.S. House. Now, will state lawmakers move quickly to disperse these funds, or will they simply use that money for budget balancing gimmicks and paying for tax cuts?
Well, I don't know. They may have used it for gimmicks before, but that stopped about 2 years ago right now. We're not gimmicking anymore, first. Second of all, I'm not relying on the federal government to give us an infrastructure bill. It's deadlocked now. Whether it comes out or not, I don't know. We intend to have our own infrastructure bill, whether the federal government comes or not. We have met with MDOT. They've given us a list of their top 25 things that they think building roads and bridges ought to be addressed. We've appropriated a significant amount of money to fix county roads and bridges last year. We'll do that again. All of those things we will do on our own volition. If, in fact, they do come to us with some amount of money, we usually get about 1% of the amount that's appropriated. So if there's a $1 billion bill that comes out of that, we'd get about $10 billion. And so that will go into our roads and bridges as it should, or whatever the restrictions are on. Some of those are on green deals and whatnot. You can't use it all on concrete and asphalt. So we'll see what the requirements or restrictions are on the federal government. Or whatever they give us, though, will be well spent, and immediately we've already identified the projects that need to go. But in addition to that, we're going to have our own infrastructure bill.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to add that I haven't asked you, Lieutenant Governor?
I think you've covered about everything. You know, I just want people to see. I've been able to go out more in the state, and I miss that desperately. But as I look back here and start talking to people out in Mississippi, We're getting over this Delta variant. We're coming back. Most of our companies have had some of their best years, except for our restaurants and hospitals also have suffered. I'm seeing a new momentum, positive momentum in Mississippi. Our revenues are very high. We're going to have extra dollars to spend to supplement what they're doing in the private sector. I'm very encouraged about going forward, and I think if we can just get this vaccination thing out of the way down to some kind of reasonable level, and we've got everybody from Jerry Rice to Archie Manning telling everybody that can and should to please get their vaccination. I think once we get through this Delta variant and through the COVID part here early on, I think we have a very positive future for Mississippi.
That's Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann with our own Thao Ta. We'll be back in a moment. Big thanks to Delbert Hosemann and Thao Ta for their discussion. We'll be back next weekend in our regular time slot, 10:30 Sunday morning, with more of the political and current affairs coverage that you demand. I'm Byron Brown. From all of us here at 12 News, make it a great weekend.